Hello and welcome to a brand new reaction video. Today I'm joined by Nick and James to look at the latest news surrounding Roy Hodgson. As always, if you do enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and also check out our pods. We've got a review show and preview show, but they've changed, of course. It's a lockdown session for both of them, so make sure to check them out on Spotify. So let's get into it. So various reports are suggesting that Palace are understood to be confident that Hodgson will not be barred from managing the team on safety grounds should football be able to resume after the current coronavirus pandemic lockdown. So let's get straight into it. Nick, this is how I see it. I mean, if you're asking someone who's vulnerable, such as Roy Hodgson, who is 70 years old, is that the right thing to do?
I think it's going to be down to him, down to his family, whether he wants to put himself at risk. Personally, if they're home games, I don't see why he can't be watching like we are on the Zoom, but they can just see his mug watching down from the jumbotron at the end of the pitch. So they're aware he's watching, and he can be phoning him through. It's no different to being in the stands. But I'll be honest with you, Diyar, I don't think football's going to start again for ages. I really, really don't. The French, was it the French leagues have decided they're going to call it a day. I know they have in Holland because teams avoided relegation through that. I just honestly don't think it can be. You've also got to think, okay, hypothetically, if it does happen, how the players going to feel being around Roy?
Yeah,
that nobody wants to be the one that gives it to anybody else.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we'll go into that in much detail later on. James, what's your initial reactions on Roy Hodgson not being barred from management? Let's say football does continue.
Well, I think that if we're going to have football continue, I think we have to have it continue as the way it was. Unfortunately, I'm not a great fan of having football behind closed doors, but under the current circumstances, maybe we should accept that because it will boost morale for a lot of people that really can't get out too much. And if it's a means of giving some entertainment to people while they're staying at home, then yeah, maybe under the circumstances, it also means that we can get the season finished. So personally, I would like Roy to be involved, but he is at an age where he would be classed as more vulnerable than others. If he did catch the disease, he's at more risk. So it's probably something he's going to have to make a decision on. But knowing Roy and knowing he's from a very strong football background, obviously, I can't see that he's going to not want to get involved, and I would expect the decision to probably be his own to make and no one else.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I'm pretty sure the club and the Premier League would make sure that if Roy Hodgson's happy with it, then he should come forward. They won't force him by any means. But a player of ours, Andros Townsend, he talked to TalkSport, and he actually said about the situation, about games going on. He said that I think we have to keep waiting, play it week by week, and see how the virus progresses. For me, the season has to finish one way or another. I know UEFA have said June 30. To be honest, whether that happens or not, I am not too sure. But one way or another, this season has to finish. There's too much riding on it. Whether it is in May, June, or September, October, November, it has to finish. Everyone is in a similar situation. Being selfish as we are, Palace are actually having a half-decent season for once, so we would like to finish off the season. We are a couple points from European places, and touch wood, we are safe from relegation. So, gents, yeah, looking at Palace side of things, I mean, we are only 6 points from top 5, and this is a massive opportunity for us. So, I guess you guys would want the season to realistically finish just like Andros Townsend.
Well, I personally think we're in a position where we could go either way. I think we could push for a better place up the league. Maybe I don't think we're there for European place, but it certainly could end up being one of our best seasons ever in the Premier League. But then again, we could quite easily sort of fall down into the bottom half. Probably not as bad as being relegated, but I think either way, I don't think we're in a position where it's crucial for us like other teams where they're, having decisions as to whether they're going to get into Champions League or get relegated. I think we're kind of like, well, if it goes ahead, fine. If it doesn't, it really doesn't matter. But I agree with you. I think that the season, if it doesn't get finished, I wouldn't be happy with that. Even if it restarts in September before the next season, I would prefer this season to finish because, we've seen so many games this season, and I just feel that you can't start a new season without finishing the previous one. And I think I said this before, even if it means cramming a few more games in, at the beginning of next season and having a few more midweek games, let's get this season finished. But yeah, hopefully it will get finished this season.
What about you, Nick?
We're talking about, if we've got to cram a lot of games in, and I'd love to see it finished. And I'm one of the strange people that don't support Liverpool, that wouldn't mind seeing them win the league after sort of 30 so years, just to let somebody else have a go at it. But, they were talking about player fitness. If they're going to start playing games again, do the players need a couple of weeks to get fit? I read somewhere, it might have been The Guardian today, they were talking about having 5 substitutions rather than the 3, just because players won't be as fit. Whether that means that it's unfair because teams like Man City obviously have a much, much better bench, and all right, you can deal with Aguero, De Bruyne and one of their other brilliant players coming on, but add another 2 to that. It's kind of a bit unfair. I don't know. We all want completion. There's been talk about doing it by average points per game as well, having a league table like that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean,
Just to conclude it.
There's lots of suggestions out there, but personally, what I get annoyed is that people want it avoided not for the health matters, but they want it because they don't want Liverpool to win the league. And I'm not that fussed alone about. I'm with you, Nick, with that situation. But talking about the substitutions, yeah, I think FIFA suggested that they may allow 5 substitutions, and I mean, it's a miracle when we see 3 subs on the Roy. So I doubt we'll be using any of the 5 substitutions then.
That's a season's worth for Roy, isn't it? 5.
Yeah, that'd be amazing if we do 5 subs. But another thing to look at is the contract situation. I mean, there's certain contracts in certain clubs where June 30th players' contracts ends, and when you look at Palace, there's only 2 players, Stephen Henderson, which I mean, I guess I won't blame you guys if you forgot about him, backup goalkeeper, and there's Scott Dan. I mean, do you offer Scott Dan a new contract in this current situation where there's financial uncertainty at the club, and there's lots of clubs taking wage cuts, which we are seeing. So if you're Palace, if you're Paris, James, do you offer Scott Dan a new contract extension?
Well, I think that if the season gets extended, I think you certainly want to keep them on board, and you want to offer some kind of extension for the couple of months it is going to take to finish the season off. But quite obviously there's going to be a number of financial issues with every club, because even if you think the Liverpools or Man Uniteds of this world are wealthy, generally speaking, a lot of the income that does come in is gone out as well on expenses and players. So they may seem wealthy, but a lot of them are excuse me, a lot of them are mortgaged up, have loans against the club, and they're not as possibly wealthy as you might expect. I think as a club we're in a good position. I think that we don't take on too much debt as other clubs do, but I certainly think there isn't going to be a massive amount of expenditure for next season. I just wanted to pick up on what you just said. I had someone commenting about a Duckworth. I don't know if you guys watch cricket, but they were talking about a Duckworth-Lewis situation where we look at the season as it is based on how many games have been played and do a Duckworth-Lewis calculation and say, well, who's won the champ? I mean, in that situation, you'd expect Liverpool to have won the league. But you're going to have teams that get relegated and teams that go into the Champions League based on a calculation that's done on the amount of games that have been played over the season. That was an interesting one that I picked up on today. So that would mean the season got concluded in a reasonably fair way, although Duckworth-Lewis situation in cricket doesn't always seem fair. But rather than scrapping the season, that would give you an end to the season and be able to recommence in September with a new season. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that, but it's an option.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
what you're saying is Vera Duckworth and Lewis Hamilton decide who wins the league. I'd like to see that, actually. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
yeah,
You need to follow. You need to follow cricket.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a question of just tossing up the amount of games that have been played and balancing it out.
As a little aside on that, the band The Divine Comedy released an album under the name The Duckworth-Lewis Method, and it's all about cricket. It's a great album, so check that one out.
yeah, I mean, listen to
I might
that.
do. And for those that are on Facebook, me and Nick have been posting a number of things on Facebook. He's been doing his best singles, and I've been doing my best albums. So that's been keeping us amused while the football's not been on.
Yeah, we haven't asked Diyar yet. I was gonna put him up next to do the top 10 albums. I'd like to see what Diyar's would be, actually. A bit
You wouldn't know,
wouldn't it, mate?
Yeah, you would. I don't think you would know any of my music, just like I wouldn't know any of yours. But
I have to say, I don't know much of Nick's music, but he did seem to like a couple of my albums that I posted.
Yeah, I mean, we all got different tastes. But just, Nick, what you mentioned earlier on in the show, you mentioned France, how they cancelled their league, but it's not only France. And I mean, let's just go into the Premier League as a whole. Should the Premier League continue? I mean, in countries such as France, the French Prime Minister announced that there will be no professional football until the 1st of September. In Holland, the Dutch FA cancelled the league with no promotion or relegation. And the Belgian Pro League is cancelled with the current table set to stand. So there's a variety there. I mean, in Belgium, they did award the winners and to the league, but in Holland that didn't happen. So I mean, Nick, do you think the league should continue?
Only if it can, but not if it's too difficult. If it drags on and on, I mean, we were talking, somebody mentioned November earlier. Okay, if we finish in November, what do we do then? When does the next season start? How long will we have to miss football for? Should the season break be when, I don't know, have we got World Cup coming up or European Championship that's going to be next season now? So we don't want to be going into that. But there's been I don't know whether there's legal action still being taken in the lower leagues. I think it was the National League and the division, or 2 divisions below the National League. They ended the leagues, said it was null and void this season. And a couple of teams that were well ahead in their leagues are very upset because they were getting promotion for the first time in ages, and it's been taken away for them. It's very tricky. But I like the fact that it was Macron that said, right, there's no football, you've got to stop the league. Right, and somebody from outside made that decision rather than the equivalent French FA.
Exactly. So I feel like, me personally, I don't know about you, James, but me personally, I feel like if something like that was to happen in England, it would be as a result of the government taking action and not the actual Premier League, because we've seen so many rumours with Premier League where there's no suggestion of cancellation. It's all about, should we put them into a neutral venue? Should we put them all together in one? There's always talks about how to continue the league. And the only way that the league will stop, in my eyes, is if the government actually takes action.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I hear that there are people from the government, maybe not the ministers or anyone that's working closely with the Prime Minister, but there seems to be discussions that have opened up about, restarting the football season. But I don't know. I think it might give out the wrong message. It might suggest that it's okay for some but not others. And there'll be a lot of people who don't watch football and don't like football, who quite rightly will argue that, well, hold on a second, but why can they get on and do their job? Why can they carry on and we can't? We're just trying to earn a decent living here, and we can't go back to work. So I'm a little bit like Nick. I'm not sure that this is going to happen. It'd be possibly good if it did. and maybe the overall factor, if it did, it might boost morale. But there's still, although it is our most popular sport in the UK, there is still a lot of people out there that don't follow football and are not interested, and they'll still probably be a bit upset about this if it's one rule for one and one rule for others.
Exactly. I think another thing to consider is that if the league does continue, there's going to be no fans, and I mean the fans clearly, we don't have a much say in this. I mean it depends on how you view the situation, but some may disagree. Some may say that we should have a say. But would you guys be happy? I mean, if the league continued and you can't go to Selhurst Park without watching the games? I know Nick, you've been going to Palace for a long time, and you, James. I mean, it'll be a different occasion. There's been suggestions that we could actually watch the games on streams online. Would you be happy watching streams online, watching Palace?
Well, it'd be advantageous for Brighton, wouldn't it? Because they spend the last quarter of their games in an empty stadium anyway, so they're used to it. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Football's a spectator sport. I think we spoke to Jim Cannon about it on one of the last Love Sports we did, and he said it kind of doesn't make a difference. Once the game gets going, you kind of forget that there's a crowd there. But then other players will say it's the crowd that G's them up and gets them going. It's difficult. It'll be very, very sterile.
I personally think you do need a crowd, but I think under the circumstances, I would be agreeable to it happening. And I don't think you'll have the situation of streaming. I think it will be put on free to view channels, purely for the fact that I've been reading in the press that, or the commentators and the media saying that, if it wasn't free to view, then you're going to have a number of supporters that are going to be getting together to try and watch the games together, and that's defeating the purpose of what they're trying to do here. So I think they've got a number of they're going to have to negotiate with the broadcasters and Sky and etc. and agree that this is going to happen. It's going to happen under extreme conditions where it's going to be free to view on TV behind closed doors, and we're literally going to try and get the season finished, boost morale in the country. It's the most popular sport in our country. I heard as well that the British Grand Prix is going to be going ahead as well. So, it does sound like there are discussions out there with whoever. I'm not saying it's anyone close to the Prime Minister, but maybe there are suggestions. But since the PM's come back, the message I'm getting is that he's not really up for any negotiations or relaxing the rules. So I'm not confident, but going back to your original question, yes, I would be happy, even if it's closed behind doors. I would be happy for it to continue under those circumstances to get the season finished in a fair way.
And to have something to talk about. We want something to talk about in football. In the back of the nest WhatsApp chat, Chris, I don't know if many of you know, has kind of remodeled a team of under-18s at Crystal Palace and featured the back of the nest lot as players. And we've spent the whole day glued to Chris on his WhatsApp telling us how each of our individual players are doing. Diyar wants to leave already after one season. It's disgraceful, man.
Yeah, I want out of that team. But just how I see the situation is that I think it's a PR nightmare for Premier League if they continue. I mean, yesterday there was news that came out saying that the Premier League took £4 million bill for 26,000 coronavirus testing kits. And already there was people out there that are saying, how can you do this when lots of people are dying, lots of essential workers are not getting tested? So if the Premier League continues with their decision to continue with the league and they do pay £4 million for the 26,000 kits, that's going to be very, very bad in the sense that people are going to look at the Premier League and see them as greedy.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a difficult minefield, isn't it? And it's a lot more complex than we can give it justice for, because you've got to think about, as well as the players being there playing the game, you're going to have the people from the media companies. You're going to have, all their runners. You're going to have ambulance, a few police. Then you're going to have police near the ground, because there was a game in France where they played it behind closed doors. and loads of people just turned up and stood outside the stadium and started chanting. So, you know, even then there were crowds gathering. Yeah, if it can be done, it can be done. But like you said, I think it's greed for the money. We need to concentrate on everybody getting better, stopping this bloody awful virus from spreading. Exactly. And if bringing back football does anything to impinge on that, then we shouldn't even be considering it.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for joining me anyways. I mean, that was a good chat about Hodgson, about Palace. Keep our minds off it. If you have enjoyed the video, and please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to not miss out on any future content. And until next time, up the Palace. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
he goes.
He goes.